Hello everyone, I've got a new puzzle. It is the first mass-produced FTO in over a decade. The Diansheng Galaxy Cluster is what they've decided to call it. And it is pretty good. So thanks Diansheng for sending this to me for free. And I'll try and share my thoughts on it and let you know how I feel, do a bit of a comparison. But if you don't want to watch the whole video, it's good.
Hello, before you continue this video, if you're new to FTO, welcome. We have a Discord server with all sorts of resources on there. If you want to learn, there is a great YouTube tutorial. I will link everything in the description. As you are.
So here we have a big family of FTOs. We've got the LanLan. This is a LanLan that hasn't been modified. I've got a modded LanLan by myself. And then these two here are modded and magnetized by Hicks, former world number 1. We have a 3D printed RexTO. So this one has ABS plastic made with FDM 3D printing. And this is an SLS 3D printed RexTO. I don't know what plastic that's made of. It's a different way of printing though. It's lighter. And of course we have the Diansheng in the middle. So I just thought we'd do a quick comparison of how each of them seem to feel. I haven't solved on these guys for ages, so obviously I'm not going to love their feeling. So, so we start with, this is out of the box. I mean, I've probably done several hundred, maybe 1,000 solves on this one. So there's no modification. You can see I've done a fair few solves actually, because I've ruined the stickers on some of them. And then an A-perm, as you can see, very catchy. Lots of lockups and threatening to pop at any moment. And then if we look at, this is a LanLan that I modded ages ago. I've put the tensions a bit too tight and put in way too much weight 5 for some reason. But this puzzle doesn't get a lot of love because I don't use it anymore. So this is my attempt at an A-perm on a very tight LanLan. So it doesn't have as many issues with catching, though it still catches in the center of the face there. It's ever so slightly better than the stock LanLan. And then I've got, this is one of the ones Tyler's modded. So he's press fit magnets in there, and he has, you can kind of see, sort of shaved off a lot of material underneath the pieces. So there's a bigger gap between them, and he's done a little bit in the middle too. This also means that you can stick a screwdriver in there and adjust the face more easily. So although my first sub 20 single was on this one, I've had countless sub 20s on this. My first average, sub 20 average, was on this one. So it's a beautiful LanLan amongst one of the best in the world. And of course this is M's. It's exactly the same as the white one. Tyler magnetized this too. M has slightly different settings to me, but still a wonderful, lovely puzzle. And you do have to be mindful that it could pop at any second, so you have to adjust your turning accordingly. But still, these ones are absolutely fantastic. This is an FDM printed RexTO. So a RexTO, for those of you that don't know, you take a Chi Super Ivy cube and you actually take off the caps of the triangles and centers, and you cut off these edge pieces, and then you stick a bunch of 3D printed parts to make this. So this part here is part of the original Super Ivy cube, and this is a 3D printed part that I've sanded and polished. Now, this specific puzzle, I didn't pay very much for the 3D printing. It was very cheap, it was very quick, so the tolerances are awful, really bad. 3 of the corners are broken and I've had to repair them. I replaced one of them as well. And despite all of that, despite the terrible tolerances, I do apologize, despite that, it still is pretty decent. I've managed 2 or 3 sub 20 singles on this, but there's too much catching and it does pop quite a lot because this thing just, the pieces are not really up to scratch. And that's my fault for cheaping out on the printing. Then we have the RexTO, the SLS RexTO. So these parts are 3D printed using SLS. I don't exactly understand the process, but we've got a slightly different texture to the pieces. This is kind of similar to the Shapeways 3D printing, if you guys remember that. I didn't sand and file these, so they have a bit more of that grain. This puzzle eats lubricant though, so I very rarely lube it these days, because the porous nature of the plastic absorbs a lot of the lubricant, so you have to keep redoing it. It changes the color of the stickers too. This is the same sticker shade, and I think the pink is also another one. This is exactly the same. They're all from the cubicle, these stickers, but the porous plastic, I think, means that oil gets into the stickers a bit. So this was my main for the longest time. It's a fantastic puzzle. It's not perfect. There aren't perfect FTOs. It turns beautifully. I don't have... What do I have in here? I do have ball bearings. I have magnets, which you can't see, but they are in there. In fact, you can see. There you go. There's a magnet. So I got magnets and ball bearings. I don't bother with the floating internal pieces because I don't like the feel of it. And yeah, this is a wonderful puzzle. It still risks falling apart and popping a lot. However, it's pretty good. It's a good tension. I'm very happy with how that one's turned out. That's all my PBs are on this one. And then we come to the new one, the newbie. This is the Diansheng. And I mean, the sound is quieter. I've actually got it quite loud because it's quite loose and not lubricated at the moment. But this thing turns really nicely. It's a little bit smaller, so if we have a look, at a guess, I'd say that's what, 2-3 millimeters shorter than the RexTO, and then compared to a LanLan, about the same. So there you go. A little bit of difference, but not huge difference. But it feels massively different. It feels really small in your hands compared to these guys, if you're used to it. As I'm turning it, I am catching, because especially here and these parts, there's not a lot of space sort of for corner cutting. So you can see, I do have this very tight, but there's almost no corner cutting on this thing. There's about this much, as you can see, which is about the same as the RexTO, to be honest. And there's no hope in hell that there's any corner cutting on a LanLan unless it's been modded, as you can see. So it's pretty much up to par with all the others. I didn't like this initially because I was so used to the RexTO. It's smaller, it is lighter, it's smoother, it's quieter, but it does catch a lot. It is really, really fast though, which took a lot of getting used to. This puzzle is too fast out of the box, and even tightening it, it still felt wrong. Didn't feel like there was a lot of a very tactile sensation to it. So I was kind of worried about it. However, we're about 500 or so solves deep, and it's feeling much nicer. So I think it might just be partly breaking the puzzle in, and part of it is a case of getting used to it, adjusting to the size, adjusting to what, you know, the feeling of it, that sort of thing. So compared to the LanLan, the stock ones, the kind of thing you're going to buy, most likely, this is worlds better. It's 12, 13 years coming, maybe more. This is enormously improved upon compared to the LanLan. So obviously, they're out of the picture. If you haven't already got an FTO, especially a RexTO, then the Diansheng is probably the thing to go for. If on the other hand you have a LanLan that's modified and magnetized, I would still go for the Diansheng over them. They're wonderful puzzles. I adore them. I really like the feel of them, but the Diansheng is just an upgrade, a straight upgrade. And for the RexTOs, I mean, it's obviously better than this one. That one's terrible anyway. It's really just between these two. This puzzle is customizable. I can choose to have ball bearings. I can choose the strength of my magnets. I can choose how many I have. I can change, the springs in this. You can change the springs in this too. I can set the color scheme. So if you really, really don't like the colors on the Diansheng, you can change the colors on black plastic, which is nice. You can choose what plastic it's made of for the 3D printing. So the ABS, which is this one would feel nicer if it weren't for the terrible tolerances. I'm confident of that. But this is lightweight. Of the two, this is still a little bit lighter. In fact, I'll grab my scales. Let's have a look. So it reckons about, oh, hang on, I haven't got that level. 116 grams versus 87 grams. There's a huge difference. And then for comparison, here is an unmodded LanLan, 134 grams. So the Diansheng is a big improvement in terms of how heavy the puzzle is and how it feels to solve. Certainly the biggest issue I've had with most non-WCA puzzles of late is I get a lot of repetitive strain injury issues. So my arms start to feel warm, or my wrist starts cramping up, or my hands, my fingers curl and don't uncurl properly, or my shoulder really hurts. And I've found that, even in a long session with the Diansheng, I'm still having some of those issues, but nowhere near to the extent that I did with the other puzzles, especially compared with the LanLan. My arm would be hurting after maybe 50 solves on this thing. It would take a little bit longer for the RexTO, and it took 100 solves on this thing before I was feeling, warmth in my arms and a bit of tension in my shoulder. So in terms of ergonomics, the Diansheng is better because it's a new puzzle. It's modern hardware. It's going to be a bit more comfortable and ergonomic to solve. The RexTO has that customizability, but the Diansheng it's there, it's ready, it's already done for you. So I'm really liking the Diansheng, basically, is my conclusion. And I think for most people, the vast majority of people, whether you're brand new to FTO or you're currently solving FTO, you probably want to just pick this up because it is just an improvement on 90% of FTOs available. It's really only if you've got a perfect broken in RexTO that you adore, like I do, that there is any competition between the two. So the other things that we know about the Diansheng, if we take this apart, and I don't want to take it apart too much, there are magnets in here and in the corner, but there are also magnets in the triangle pieces and the edges. I clipped my nails the other day, so there you go. There's a magnet, and there's magnets in all of the edge pieces as well. So that was actually pretty painless to get that tile off. I haven't tried changing the color scheme because I quite like it. Now let's see if this guy can put this back the right way around. Oh dear. I think it's this way. No, that doesn't work. There we go. Are you lined up? No, you're not. Okay, that's interesting. I'm discovering in real time the challenge of... I got to put that one in first, I think. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so that wasn't too bad, actually. And then putting this back together is a bit of a chore. I have this extremely tight because this puzzle is far too fast. I spoke to Diansheng's Instagram account about this, and the representative there said that they too agreed that it was very fast and uncomfortable. And I suggested maybe they could release with another set of springs with a different strength, maybe some stronger springs stronger springs, and they said the boss man's looking into it. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we will see extra sets of springs in there, just because it's just a little bit too fast, a little bit too loose. Slightly stronger springs might be the antidote. They also might not fix that, but that's where my head was at. Here is the box, or at least the box this one came in. There's your Galaxy cluster. It appears to be the name they've gone for. There's a really weird method in here to learn how to solve it. By all means, try and figure it out for yourself. You could even learn this particular method. Their notation is pretty easy to understand, pretty straightforward. It's one in Chinese, one in English. It, by all accounts, is a pretty good booklet. It's a simple box. So here I am hoping for springs in the full release. If you do want to learn how to solve FTO, Ben Streeter's or Ben Puzzles tutorial is the way to go. Ben Cisco is just definitively the best method right now. That may well change in the future, but as of 2024, it is still the best method. And we've improved it enormously. There's tons of resources and algs and all sorts of things you can learn for it. Okay, so let's talk about the positives of this puzzle. Number one, it's smaller, it's lighter, it's faster, it's smoother. So it's basically a direct upgrade from the previous mass-produced hardware. So on that account, it's great, it's fantastic, it's amazing. And then a lot of people like stickerless puzzles, so that'll be a nice one for people, is that it's stickerless. The colors are pretty good. You know, you've got quite a nice purple. The gray looks a bit brown in some lights, but I still quite like it. We saw some pre-release photos months ago where the green was a really sickly pale, or kind of this pale green, and they've changed it to a slightly darker one, which is nice. I do like the colors on this puzzle, and the color scheme itself is cool. So we've got, if you imagine you've got a 3x3, you'll have white on the bottom, yellow on top, and then you'll have blue, then red, then green, then orange, and they've just put grey and purple in those extra two faces. So in terms of, you know, knowing your color scheme, well, red is on the right when blue is here. And then I just know, you know, because I saw white first, so I know it's blue, red, green, and orange. And that also helps when building the centers. If you start with white here and you're working on centers, you've done your green, you then know that it's going to be orange next, because that's how the centers go on 4x4, for example. So I like the color scheme. I love the glossy plastic as well. I'm a big fan of puzzles with glossy plastic. Not UV coated, that's whatever, that's fine. I'd much rather just have a puzzle that is straightforwardly glossy already, instead of making it rough and then UV coating it. This particular, you know, if it gets scratched and scraped up and stuff, I don't really mind. I'm more interested in solving the puzzle than it looking super fancy. And glossy is, I don't know, it's slightly grippy. Is that true for everyone? Am I weird? Do I have clammy hands? Maybe. Now, the other advantages are that this puzzle is, you know, it's magnetized. It comes magnetized, and the magnet strength is pretty good. I like the strength of the magnets. I'm pretty happy with that. I thought they were quite strong initially, but that was mostly because this thing was so fast. I'd do that and it would do a U3. Stock tensions were a joke. It was far too loose for me. A lot of people found theirs too tight. I was the opposite. This thing needs to be tamed and slowed down, in my experience. Other positives of the puzzle is, this is neither positive nor negative. It's fairly, I was going to say it's fairly easy to take apart, but I've just shown that it's extremely easy to take apart. You try and pull out one piece and then the whole thing flies apart. There is a downside though, which is it's actually a little bit difficult to put together. So let's get that in, and then, oopsie. Since I have all this open space, let's make use of some of it, like this. Okay, there's the white piece in. Let's get blue and gray. Maybe the corner first. Okay. And then, no, that's definitely not going to be the way to do it. Perhaps instead oh yes, I can use this gap here to get the red in nice and easy. And then for the white, ordinarily on other FTOs, I would have turned the face slightly like this and made use of the gap in the center to try and push the piece in. And that sometimes works, did there, which is nice. But other times it pushes this edge piece slightly out. Not fully, it doesn't explode, but it pushes it slightly out and then you have to clip it back in. As a comparison, if I try to take out a piece of the LanLan, it's super easy because there's no anti-pop mechanism. It's very easy to put it back in as well. For the RexTO, again, fairly straightforward. You pull the triangle in exactly the same way, and then you push it in the reverse of that. They're all fairly straightforward to dismantle and put together. I'm just grabbing my screwdriver to show you a huge thing with the LanLan. This is actually a modded one. I've just realized I have modded it. I don't think I have an unmodded LanLan, thinking about it. Point is, in the brand new ones which aren't modded, you can't stick a screwdriver in because there's plastic in the way. All of these converge and you can't put your screwdriver in, which is why I modded them. For the RexTO, you can jam a screwdriver in because there's enough clearance. That is deliberate. In fact, there are these floating pieces. So if I get the Rex cube, underneath the triangles, oh my god, this is also a hard puzzle to dismantle. Now these guys. So these actually sit there in the puzzle underneath, and you have to cut off this top section. And because people really like these in there, but they still want to be able to adjust by shoving a screwdriver in, you can drill a hole, stick these together and then drill a hole to be able to access via a screwdriver. Some people 3D print a part. I just don't use the part because it makes the puzzle feel very tight and uncomfortable for me. It's all personal preference. That's quite a nice thing about the RexTO, is that it's all customizable, and I can't get this together. Let's leave it. I'll do that later. Now, Diansheng. You have to give it a bit of a shove, but you can get a screwdriver in. So, if there was anything I'd want changing, about the mechanism, it's only a small thing, I would personally want this little ridge of black plastic here. Just make that go away. Take that bit out, and then I can shove my screwdriver in and adjust really easily. Now you get to watch me put this back together a second time, depending on how I edit the video. What's nice about having magnetized pieces is it's very, very easy to put together if you ever have an explosion, which is a major issue for the FTO, or has been historically, is that puzzles pop and fall apart really easily. Yeah, it's not really letting me do it this time in this one. So the other way you can insert a triangle is like this. So you match the center of this edge, bring that to the central bit of this hole, and try and shove it in this way. There we go. Remember, when you're trying to pull a triangle out, pull from this or this corner. Don't pull from the base there, because this is where you have the biggest moment against the mechanism. Anyway. I remember pops and explosions. That was it. So if I try and do an alg on the LanLan and I turn a bit aggressively, you can see I'm naturally resisting when things like this happen. I'm naturally trying to sort of calm down my turning a little bit so that it doesn't explode. I don't think there's any here that I would naturally turn aggressively enough without stopping myself. Right, yeah, like I catch a lot, which leads to pops, by the way. That's what causes a pop, is pieces lock up, layers misalign, and then a piece can fly out. A lot of people joke about the best way to take your LanLan apart is just to try and turn it, because it will just pop eventually. But most of my puzzles I've avoided popping too often. I would say in an average of 100 on the RexTO, I'd maybe have 1 or 2 pops. And indeed, I did an average of 100 yesterday on the Diansheng, and I had 1 pop. It was major, an edge came out, so 8 pieces total came out. And it's just annoying. But what was worse is that when I tried to put it back together, it popped again. So I'm still getting used to that, still getting used to the puzzle. It's not like terrible by FTO standards, but I would prefer it if it didn't, if that's at all possible. I actually don't know, because I don't know puzzle mechanisms. But what I thought might be fun is if I just did a solve on each of these and just suffered through trying to solve all of them. Okay, let's see how they go. $40.73. Yeah, see? Told you. So yeah, unsurprising it's the worst time. I don't know the color scheme, and I made a mistake on the color scheme. It ruins a solve. $22.55, pretty decent. pretty much the same time. Shout out to these horrendous stickers. They are so bad. Wow. I just get used to them when I'm solving loads on the puzzle, but man, they look pretty awful at the moment. Again, about the same. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, great. They're all just 22s. So as you can see, they're all comparable, but these are much more comfortable to solve than these guys. Like physically, there's nothing holding me back with these pieces of hardware. So there is no reason, I don't think, to avoid the Diansheng. We don't know a price yet. We don't know an exact release date. What we've heard from Diansheng so far is they're aiming to release, originally they said by the end of July. Now they're saying they're trying to release by the end of June. So hopefully in the next 5 or 6 weeks, we should be seeing something coming out. We don't know anything about price. Several of the testers have asked what the price will be, and we haven't actually got any reply, not even, oh, we don't know yet. They just haven't decided, I'm guessing. I'm hoping it's probably about £15. That's what I'm sort of hoping is the sort of cost, which is what, like $18 max, somewhere around there. Like less than $20, maybe ideally about $15, which is like 12 quid or something. Just because that's a good, I think this puzzle is probably about the standard of a good 3x3 or 4x4. Slightly better than budget, but not by a lot. So I think it's fair enough if it's sort of in that price range. I will say if it's asking sort of $30 to $40, that's probably too much. You can get a RexTO for that. So then it's a question of which are you willing to spend the money on. You're willing to invest the time and get a more customizable puzzle, or do you want to just get a puzzle and get solving? It probably still is the Diansheng in that case, but I don't see it being that expensive. I don't think it will be. But yeah, it's a lovely puzzle. I'm really pleased with it. I'm having a good time with it. My times are almost as good. I'm averaging about 24 seconds now. I would like that to come down a lot. I still can't sub 20 very reliably with this puzzle just because it's fighting me, it's catching, it's resisting, it doesn't want to listen to me basically. So there may be some scope for modding in the future. I'm definitely buying one when it comes out. You know, thanks to Diansheng for sending me this one for free. I'm still going to buy one because if they are going to be released with extra springs, I want to try them with a different spring and figure out if that's better. The other thing to point out is that Dian has been working on a prototype FTO of their own. The final design hasn't been chosen yet. They haven't landed on anything. We don't have any release dates or anything like that. Most likely it will probably be the end of 2024, beginning of 2025. So we don't know anything about the Dian, but from pictures, it looks like its corner cutting is going to be better. So the one thing that the main things the Diansheng is lacking, it's difficult to set up so that it's controllable for me personally. So hopefully stronger springs will fix that, but it is very catchy. It locks up a lot, just like most FTOs do. A Florian mod will fix that. Maybe the Dian will be better. I will say one other thing. The size is a little bit small to my taste. I'd like it slightly larger. Still smaller than the RexTO. I have realized that a smaller FTO is better, but it is sometimes cramping my hand a little bit. I am finding that the smaller size is a little bit uncomfortable, but if you've never solved FTO before, I don't see that being a problem at all. So all in all, pretty good, yeah. One more thing. Diansheng has announced in the last couple of days that they will sponsor competitions that run an unofficial round of FTO. The deadline for a competition to be organised is by June next year, 14th of June 2025. And the idea is, obviously for them, they want to publicize their puzzle and sell it. The benefit for us is that more people are solving FTO, and there are quite a few places where we don't really have many FTO solvers. So if you are one of the few people even in your country or your continent that solves FTO, this is a chance for you to get your name out there as somebody who is, outstanding at a puzzle. You could pick up FTO, get ahead of the curve, and start going for it and grinding. And this could be your puzzle. This is definitely mine. This is my best event by a huge margin, and it would be great for us in the UK to have some more FTO rounds, and I would just love to see more people solving it. So I'm really pleased, really pleased with the Diansheng FTO. So much better than I was expecting. If you have any questions, anything else you want to know, chuck it down below. And once again, thanks Diansheng for sending it. Thanks everyone for watching.
Okay, so we've got some solves here from myself and Em, and we're starting off actually with a couple of mishaps that have happened to both of us. So we're just coming up towards the end of the solve now for Em, and the corner cap has come off. So sometimes the caps of the pieces will come off. You can, I guess, glue them down, but it's not really a big deal. They clip on just fine. Make sure you attach it before you finish the timer, because it'll be a DNF if there's no corner caps attached. So here I am, pretty decent start on this solve. It's going pretty well. We're on to our last two centers here, and then an edge came out, and that's it. You can't recover from that. It's over. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the other solves.
There we go, now we're cooking, that's a good time.